we focus on helping you claim what's rightfully yours, your health and your freedom. We explore the three main areas of health: the physical realm, the biochemical realm, and the mental and emotional realm. We also explore all the areas of lifestyle we can find that will help you live more abundantly, regardless of where you're starting. And remember, in life, you'll either make excuses or create results. You choose. I'm your host, Dr. Josh Hant, and I'm glad to be with you here today. Make sure to head on down to the show notes and click on the link to join our tribe of human-powered life heroes, where we'll update you on new shows, events, product launches, and so much more. Now, it's time to enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Human Powered Life podcast. We have a really unique, really cool guest today. This is Christopher Maher. Brother, I'm so excited to have this conversation. I can't wait to bring people through your past and to where we are today, because like we said in our pre-chat, I'm like, it's like the North Pole and the South Pole, but they're going to meet right in the middle. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hey, I'm happy to be here, Doc. Anything that I can do to support your people feels really good to me. So Thank you for having me on.
Likewise. So I appreciate that. So what I love to do is bring people down a little bit, a journey. I want them to know who you are. Where did Christopher Maher come from? And I'm just going to lead one thing. You know, when you go to his website, when you look around, like, this is like the most peaceful, like I listen to all these videos, I'm like, this is like the most peaceful, calm human being. And knowing what he did in his previous life, I'm like, holy crap, this is nuts. But I absolutely love it, because you've seen the intensity of both sides of the world. So bring people down your journey.
Yeah. You know, it's I was on a podcast earlier, and the guy said, and he goes, "Look, I've got your shtick from seal to sage, right?
Yeah.
You know, how do you go from maximal amount of intensity to maximal amount of groundedness and calm? And so, although the SEAL team aspect of my journey is sexy and fun and interesting and unique, I like a lot of children around the world dealt with childhood trauma. Right? I had a mother who was mentally ill. She committed suicide by the time she was 29.
Wow.
Her father, my grandfather, died of cirrhosis of the liver by the time he was 44. So you can already see, go back 2 generations, right? If we went back a 3rd generation, you know, what other sorts of mental stress, emotional stress, physical stress, and spiritual stress would we find, right?
Yeah.
We would find a lot. So from womb to 7 was very challenging for me, because I had a mother who was challenged emotionally. She was challenged financially. She was challenged psychologically. She had been through her own sets of traumas and stressors, and she was doing her best to survive every single day. And I understood, without sharing her whole story, why she chose to leave the planet when she did in the fashion that she did. And so imagine I'm 7 years old, and now 3 days later, I'm in foster care, right?
Wow.
With strangers that I don't know. I walk into the house that I'm going to be a part of, and it's Kitty and Charlie Evans, and they were saints. They were angels. They were very kind to me. They were very generous. They were never harsh with me in any way. They were very open and spacious. And I walk in, and there's a kid sitting in the hallway. His name's Charlie. His legs are crossed, and he's smashing his forehead into the wall. And I'm looking at this going, what have I got myself into?
Yeah, no kidding.
And that was like a real wake-up call. And then I was there for about 6 to 8 months, and then my grandmother got custody of me and my brother, and she sent us to a boarding school in Hershey, Pennsylvania, named Milton Hershey School. And I was there for 10 years. And when you're a part of any institution, they have rules and regulations and policies, right? And the ones who are more willing to follow those rules, regulations, and policies, they have an easier ride, right?
Of course.
And my ride was pretty easy until I hit 13, 14 years old, and I started to individuate into my own personality, and I started to push back, right? Like, hey, this doesn't make a lot of sense. How come I have to do this, but this other boy gets to do that, right? And anything that was unfair and inequitable, I started shouting off the mountaintop. And then I started to get a lot of pushback and a lot of extra chores and assignments and
Mm.
things that honestly, if I look back today, I feel weren't in my best interest. So I eventually bent the knee and I learned to be quiet. And so I left school. I went to college. I was in college about, what's that, 15 months. And then I wasn't going to school. I wasn't going to class. I was going to parties. I was hanging out. I was social. I was learning how to be social, right?
Yeah, from a
Because
boarding
in
school
boarding
to,
school,
yeah.
you don't. So I was like, what? I don't have to go to class. This is fabulous. And and then I went to a party and I drank too much and I end up getting hospitalized.
Okay.
And when I come and the ambulance had to come on campus. So then the school president had me down to the office. He says, look, I'm looking at your grades. I'm looking at your entrance exams. Your entrance exams are the highest and your grades are the lowest. It doesn't seem like this is the place for you. And it doesn't seem like we're challenging you here. Maybe you need something bigger and better.
Mm.
Of course, I was offended. And I thought, well, F you. Okay. But on my drive home, I thought, he's right. I went to a school that was never really going to challenge me. And I need a big challenge. And that's when I had a little prayer. And sure enough, a little while later, one of my buddies I went to boarding school with, his mom came and picked me up on my birthday, said, hey, why don't you come live at our house until you figure it out? And I go in the house, and in the basement is a biannual magazine about SEAL training and the SEAL teams.
Uh,
I pick it up. I see the front cover. There's like 8 boat crews of guys with telephone poles on their shoulders running down the beach, grunting. Right. And I looked at that and I thought that these people are going to challenge me. And I think a lot of guys go into SEAL teams for different reasons. I wasn't the guy that was going in because like I wanted to be standing up for my country. I was not that person. Okay. I literally was going in because I know I needed to be challenged. And I
mm.
sat down and I wrote a list of all the things that I wanted to experience that I thought going through SEAL training and the SEAL teams, the doors that it would open for me. And I came up with, before they called it a bucket list, I created the bucket list.
Mm.
Okay. And that was in 1988. Okay.
Okay.
And then I was off in the SEAL training, the SEAL teams. And, SEAL training is challenging because they're going to find that weak point that everyone has. Mine was to deal with the cold because I was so lean.
Mm.
Right. And so full blown hypothermia was the animal that I had to tackle. And when you're in a stupor, right, you're so cold. Like my core temperature has been 86.3,
Jeez.
86.4 degrees. Okay. I've gone into ventricular fibrillation and been hospitalized.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So, so SEAL training was challenging in its own way. It took me a little longer than most to get through the program. And then I went into the SEAL teams. And the SEAL teams was very different than I imagined because, when you leave SEAL training, it's all like get up, work out. And in SEAL teams, it's all work, right?
Mm.
And everyone's responsible for their own niche within a platoon. Okay. And I was responsible for communication. And the SEAL teams, there's a certain lifestyle. Like they deal with their stress through excessive working out and drinking alcohol, right? And there's a lot of promiscuity, right? In that community. And so I learned to be in a way that I had never been.
Mm.
And then I kept riding that wave
Yeah.
until I ended up with a lot of problems, right? So by the time I was 27, I got a DUI. And that DUI made me look in the mirror. I went home after I got out of the drunk tank that morning and I looked myself in the mirror and I had a very long conversation. And after that conversation, I decided to call up everyone who I was hanging out and partying with. And I called them, I said, very simple. If you're calling me because you want to go party, drink beer, get wild, lose my number. If you're calling me because you want to hang out, have a barbecue, watch a fight, watch a football game, I come over and help you maybe move your household to another house, cool, call me. But if you're calling me again to party, to rage, to get wild, lose my number.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of Saturn returns, right? At 27. I had no idea. And from that moment on, I shifted my course.
Yeah. Well, do you think, I've read and listened to probably more than a dozen books on Navy SEALs and Special Forces. To me, it's very interesting and intriguing, the type of training and the types of things that you have to do, and knowing the intensity of it. Do you feel that, like, psychologically, the intensity of what you had to go through, all of that training, most people now know who the Navy SEALs were. Maybe in the 80s, people really didn't know until that movie with Charlie Sheen came out, right? That
Yeah.
everybody, the SEALs.
Yeah.
So do you think that like would drive, like, the intensity and you having to be so private about what you're doing, where you're
Yeah.
going, that drove the team, if you will, your group of
Yeah.
guys to listen, we're just going to drown it with alcohol, and then we just start back over again?
Yeah, I think probably the secrecy is always an issue, right?
Yeah.
Because anytime you have secrets, you're creating secretions. And I know that created a lot of problems in the relationship that I had at the time. And I took it seriously. I had a what you would call a top secret clearance.
Yeah.
And I lived a very sort of private life. And the challenge with the intensity that you experience in SEAL training and the SEAL teams, plus all just the loud noises, right?
I'm
Explosive and
sure. I can only imagine.
gunfire and all that, the potential of, taking another person's life, all that kind of intensity, it leaves an imprint in your nervous system. And I didn't know it at the time. No one told me before I go to SEAL training, like, hey, listen, when you get out of that whole gig, you're going to be left over with these very specific stressors that you're going to have to deal with. And I didn't know. And what I realize in retrospect now is that there's no need to live with that intensity.
Mm.
If you remove the tension and the stress and the distortion that came into your body at an emotional level, at a physical level, at an energetic level, at a psychological level, then when you exit the SEAL teams, you can enter smoothly into society. But when I left the SEAL teams, I was manufacturing intensity,
Mm.
and I was taking risks that I didn't need to take in order to maintain that level of intensity.
Yeah.
And so I was looking for situations like that, right? I was
Yeah.
getting in bar fights. I was driving way too fast. I was just taking risks that were unnecessary, but I was trying to match the stress level that my nervous system was
Yeah.
locked into.
Yeah. That
Right.
intensity, right? That, like, you needed
Yeah.
that
Like
feeling
literally,
of,
I would start packing. I literally would start packing 5 minutes before I was supposed to leave for the airport, just so that I could manufacture that intensity.
mm,
Right. And then I'm getting to the airport and I make my flight with 30 seconds to go. Right.
yeah.
Like I'm subconsciously manufacturing risk
Yeah.
in order to engage those stress hormones, to get the adrenaline pumping, to get the cortisol pumping. Because
Yeah.
guess what? I'm never going to put on Navy SEAL fatigues again. I'm never going to put on that kind of wetsuit. I'm not going to be diving a drug R5. I'm not going to be jumping out of a plane in the middle of the night. That none of that stuff is ever going to be happening again. But your nervous system, once it's locked into that, it needs to figure out how to keep the game going.
Yeah. It was trained specifically for that
For
when you
that,
needed to do
right?
that. And
That's
yeah,
right.
unlearning
Yeah.
is
And
just as hard as learning,
yeah.
for
And I
sure.
would use those situations to
Mm.
get locked in, right? And then I would get to the airport and I'd have that level of intensity and everyone would just move out of my way, right? Um, and I realized what everyone needs is a successful pattern interrupt to any level of stress, trauma, or tension or distortion that they've
Mm.
experienced, especially if it came between womb and 13. If your first experience of stress and trauma happens between womb and 13, it's locked into your unconscious and subconscious. Your
Yep.
conscious mind doesn't have access to it or controls it any longer. So we need guys like you. We need
Mm.
chiropractors. We need um, physical therapist. We need massage therapists. We need
Mhm.
acupuncturists. We need a Gosku practitioner. We need yogic practitioner. We need
Yeah.
people out there that are doing everything they can to interrupt the pattern. that was created from the initial trauma point.
Yeah.
And if you can figure out that initial trauma point through deep investigation, and you can pull that out at its root, the person never goes back to that stress state.
Yeah. So Christopher, so you have this moment, like this mirror moment, like after the what do you call it, the drunk tank, like
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
whole thing, like holy cow, life is now shifting. So how did you go from? I'm trying to, and maybe not even how, but you had that moment, and when did you decide, like, hey, I know now I need to start learning more so I can start potentially helping myself and now helping others that have been through similar situations that I've been through. Where was
Perfect.
that? Where was that pivot? Hey, we're giving you a short break here where you can head down to the show notes or lifestylelocker.com and join our tribe of human-powered life heroes. You'll be the first to know about new shows, events, product launches, affiliate specials, and more. And now, back to the show.
Perfect. So I extracted myself from the alcohol, right? And the recreational drugs and the promiscuity. And then I started focusing more on being healthy. The challenge is when you start focus on being healthy, everything that's not health rises up to the surface to be dealt with, because you're no longer addicted to negative stress management tools, right? So negative stress management tools would be alcohol, nicotine, caffeine, refined sugar, excessive exercise, let's see, drama, right? Miscommunication, dishonesty, right? So once you break your addiction to those things, then what happens is you step into a much more peaceful, grounded state. And as I got into a more peaceful, grounded state, again, everything that wasn't love rose up to the surface as pain. And eventually I had pain at every joint. And then I had to reach out for help. And it was the most difficult thing for me to do, because when you deal with a lot of childhood trauma, you think that perfected action is what's going to keep you from being abused and punished and rejected and humiliated. And you think that's going to keep you from experiencing pain and discomfort and possibly death. But perfected action doesn't actually. It just makes you more controlled.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
So as I started to let go of those control strategies, everything that wasn't love rose up to the surface to be experienced as pain. And I reached out and had a buddy of mine, a SEAL team, his name was Jeff Higgs. And Jeff got me started. He brought over a yoga mat and a juicer to my house and got me started on, looking at my level of flexibility. And when I started to drink that initial juice that he made, it took me a long time to suck it down, because, he drank his quickly. But to me, it literally tasted like the worst thing on the planet.
Like long clippings.
Yes. Yeah. Like long clippings. Right. And to him, he was drinking it. It was just like he was enjoying it. And I suddenly had what you call an awakening. I looked at him. I thought, oh, that tastes good to him because he's healthy. This tastes terrible to me because I'm unhealthy. And in that moment, it hit me. And I go,
that's
okay.
huge. That's huge. Like that, just that awareness right there. That is so big. Like I talk to people like, I can't drink that shit. It's disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, but your body needs it.
Yes. Yeah.
Your body
The worse it tastes to you, that should be an indication of how off your palate is from a natural state of things. Like I'm somebody, I like things bland because I like to taste things, right? All right. But before, no, I wanted sauce. I wanted everything to be super, super tasty because I couldn't taste anything. Right.
Yeah. So
as I started to remove more stress and tension from my body, the deeper levels of pain and discomfort, I started to become much more aware of how locked I was in my hips. And then I had a car accident. And a car accident brought everything straight to the surface, and I could never get away from the pain. And when you can never get away from pain, you have to look under every rock and stone and log in the forest in order to try to find a solution. Because there's nothing like pain to get you to bend the knee and get vulnerable and admit that you're not perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, and coming from someone that was so regimented, like I think just to
Yeah.
get through what you went through, like it's
Yeah.
like you're like in the 1%.
Oh, I'm in the 1% because
Yeah,
I go and see a body worker 3 or 4 days a week here in
yeah,
Los Angeles. And he always says to me, he goes, man, your commitment is total.
yeah,
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, no one will ever be able to say that I wasn't committed. Right.
yeah,
And now I'm committed though to the right things. Right.
yeah.
When I was committed to the wrong things, I was fully committed. Like if
Mhm.
I was going to party, I was going to party.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
not
all
going home
out,
till
all
5
in. I
a.m.
mean, yeah,
I am all in. That is my personality. So when I'm all into health and wellness and growth
Mhm.
and spirituality and deep levels of satisfaction and peace in my life, I'm going to do whatever it takes. Once I got my first major bit of relief, and I remember this guy was pushing on my foot. I was in Rancho Santa Fe. He flew down from San Jose to work on me, and he's pushing my foot towards my rear end. And he can tell I'm in pain because I am breathing like a freight train.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
like, I can stop here. And I remember looking over my shoulder and I go, don't you dare. You keep pushing. And
yeah,
he was like, okay, I'll keep pushing. And he kept pushing, and the pain was deep. I mean, it was so deep. But once I realized I could get out of the hell that I was in, I put everything that I learned to practice for hours every single day,
yeah,
because once you have that awakening moment of like, oh, I can be in peace. The anxiety can be severely reduced. I can be happy in ways that I didn't even know that I wasn't. You're willing to do everything you can to get back to that state. Because, when you're growing up as a kid, there were fleeting moments where you had access to a feeling like a deep state of inner peace,
mhm.
or a deep state of joy, or a deep state of happiness. You wake up the next day wondering where it went. When you realize you can have that on a consistent basis, you're willing to do everything you can. It's like being in a dream. And I know you've had this
Yeah,
experience. It's like one of the most amazing dreams. You wake up and you're like, oh my God, I got to get back into that dream.
yeah, of
Right.
course. Yeah,
And you do everything to get back into that dream. And so for me, as I started to remove myself from excessive amounts of stress and tension and physical and emotional and psychological distortion, I was willing to do everything that I could in order to get back into that dream.
yeah. It's pretty. I mean, it's really neat to see that, like the transition and being aware of it. And I think that's I think a huge takeaway if you're watching or listening to this is you can have both ends of the spectrum, but I think having the awareness to know where you are on that spectrum of like high intensity, high stress, you may think you may be doing good for yourself, and you may be a little bit, but you also need to know that there's that other end of the spectrum that, hey, listen, I can have that fit, healthy, intense body, but I can also be so calm and resilient and healthy and healing and peaceful all at the same time. You don't need to be stuck like
Mm-mm.
this. You don't have to be this person or this person. You
Mm-mm.
can be the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. And a lot of that comes through having honest awareness, right? You've got
Yeah.
to be able to have an honest conversation with yourself.
Yeah.
If your back hurts or it's stiff all the time, you got to seek help,
Yeah.
and you got to look under every stone. Okay. Like, combine. If the chiropractic isn't enough for you, combine and find a massage therapist. If that's not enough for you, find a
Yeah.
meditation teacher. If that's not enough for you, find some exercises. Find somebody that does eccentric strength. Find somebody that does machine. Look under every stone out there to get relief. Because the truth is if you do nothing, nothing will change.
Yeah. Exactly. You'll get what you look for.
Yeah.
You won't get what you
Mm.
won't look for.
Yeah.
Is the truth of the matter, right? So I want to just like I want to bring this full circle for people because people listening to this story going, holy cow, Navy SEAL to like this healing person that in their head, like even for me, when I first started looking into it, I'm like, holy cow, this is so unique and so cool that you can have both ends of the spectrum in one lifetime and
Yes.
realize it, right? And
Thank you.
realize it. So, where's the best place for people to find out more about you and learn more about what you do? And for those people that may want to go, hey, you know what? Like I want to connect with them, maybe on a personal level. to maybe learn more? Maybe he can help me. What are the best places and best ways?
Okay. The best place is truebodyintelligence.com. Why? Because it's true, it's your body. And the purpose of it is to increase your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual intelligence. Okay. So
Beautiful.
truebodyintelligence.com. When you get to True Body Intelligence, my suggestion is buy the book, right? Take a small risk. I mean, I live in Los Angeles. If you want to get a good burger, it costs $25. Okay. But okay. So the book is 1997. Obviously, read the book, educate yourself. I inform people at the very beginning in the forward, read the book 3 times because you need to understand it. Once you get it, you got it. If you want to take it a step further, all you do is you email us at support@truebodyintelligence.com, and Christina will send you a one sheet on the things you need to do in order for us to be able to sit down and have a conversation to see how I can help you.
Cool. So everybody just make sure that'll be in the show notes for everybody. And if you're watching this, just scroll down, on the website. So also I want to say this. So with your shift, if you will, from, warrior to health warrior, what things do you enjoy doing, participating, whether it's getting help or giving? Like, let's do both. Like, what are your favorite things that you love getting worked on with you? What are your favorite things to help with clients?
Yeah, from SEAL training to heal training is what I call it.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
The thing that I love to receive the most is there is a company out there, or let's say a family. You grew up in a family of chiropractors. Well, there's another family called the Cranes in Dallas, Texas, and they created a process called the Alpha Biotic Alignment.
Okay.
And I love to get an alignment 3 or 4 days a week, at the very least once. And the thing that I like to have worked on the most for me in Chinese medicine, there's 12 primary channels of energy and there's 4 extraordinary channels of energy. I like to get my urinary bladder channel worked on because it's the channel for emotional balance. And of all the things that I like to access the most is emotional balance, grounded emotions, and peace. When I work on other people, the thing that I love working on the most, or the types of people I like working with the most, are people who have gone down every avenue that they've known and they've ended up with 0 as a return on investment. And I'm their last hope, right? And I love because they walk in the door and they're stressed, and I know no matter what's going to come out of their mouth, there's going to be some level of growth that happens here. Cool. And I love bringing them back into emotional balance. And a lot of the people that I work with have dealt with some level of trauma in their childhood.
Okay. So if you're listening, pay attention. Rewind 30 seconds there. So you see if you're someone that's perfect for the work, if you will. And I love that you say from SEAL training to heal training. And oftentimes in my personal practice as a chiropractor, like we get nicknamed like the doctors of last resort, where I say people, we need to become like the first resort.
Yes.
Avoid the drugs and the surgeries and all of these things. We can help guide you because we connect with people like you as well, right? I love to have these conversations because I could appoint my practice members, my patients to, hey, listen, being a human is not just about your physical nervous system health. It's beyond, right? Like we have that, we spoke about like the innate intelligence, that universal intelligence, like your body can do amazing things when given the right tools. It can heal from anything. I've seen the most extraordinary things in my practice. I'm sure in your practice as well, you've seen unbelievable things that people go, no way. and I love that. And I think that's so powerful. So let's pause here because I want everybody to head over to the website. We're going to do a video only section because we're going to talk to Chris for a little bit about like where he is now, like where he sees himself in the future. So if that's interesting to you, I want to learn more about some of his personal practices that he does daily. Okay. Follow us over there. All right, Christopher, this has been a blast. All right,
brother. It's been awesome. Thank you. You're a fabulous host, man.
Well, I appreciate it. We're
going
to head over there now.
It was awesome.
Yes. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Human Powered Life podcast. Make sure to head over to lifestylelocker.com to check out all the details on the show and to watch part 2 of this episode, which is only in video format. We also have this audio portion in video format if you want. Once again, I'm your host, Dr. Josh Hant, for the Human Powered Life podcast, and I'm looking forward to staying connected with you as a Human Powered Life hero. Remember to join the tribe, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.